Hello, everyone, and welcome to IBM Code Engine 201, Deploy Apps from Source Code. So this week, we're going to take a deeper dive into Code Engine. We're going to be working from the CLI. I also have added to the slides resource links for last week's IBM Code Engine 101. I will I'll include those. Let me start over. I'll include those as well. They're in the chat. They're in all of the links are in the chat. The links for last week's 101 is there as well. You do not have to have completed last week's 101 in order to do this week's 201. I do have two different setups, so we'll get to that in just a second. But before we get started, if you haven't already, or maybe this is your first time at one of our workshops, or maybe you're a repeat joiner, feel free to share in the chat so we can all get better acquainted with each other, your name and pronouns, your title and company, or maybe you're currently studying or in a program, where you're from, or maybe where you're joining from during quarantine or working from home, something you love, and then a quirk, maybe something that's uniquely weird or different about you. So to get started, as I mentioned before, this is the link for the slides. If you scroll all the way up to the top of the chat, you will see all of the links there as well. I'll repost them at the end of the session as well. So everything we do today, you will be able to follow along in the slides as well if you want to follow along or work on it at a later time. So this is the Code Engine repository. So this is the one-stop shop for all of the really great tutorials and sample applications. This is the GitHub repo for that. So yes, this session is being recorded. The URL that you used to join with the Crowdcast today, or if you're watching it live streamed on YouTube or Twitch, the recording will live within Crowdcast at the Crowdcast URL that you either joined with today, or the Crowdcast URL that's listed in the event slides. So if you would like to follow along with the tutorial today, you will need an IBM Cloud account. This is the link to sign up. Also, if you click the click to check in button, that will take you to the IBM Cloud sign up as well. If you already have an IBM Cloud account, feel free to log into that. So to kick things off, I will go first. I'll introduce myself. So my name is Jenna Ritten. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a cloud developer advocate at IBM. I'm originally from Detroit, currently joining from my parents' place in Western New York. Something I love are my dogs. I have 2 Yorkies. I finally have a better setup where I don't have to listen to them crying anymore. And a quirk about me, which you may already know if you've joined sessions in the past, I have a sick obsession for tuna salads and tuna melts. I actually just had one today. So if you have any recommendations, feel free to share. If it's bad, I'm going to judge you, the entire restaurant, and their entire menu, and judge all the rest of their food on there as bad as they work on their tuna melts. So that's a little bit about me. I want to let give Doug a chance to introduce himself. He's going to be talking a little bit more about Code Engine a little later in the session, and he'll stick around to help answer any questions that you might have later.
Yep. Hey everybody, I'm Doug Davis, one of the offering managers for Code Engine. And as Jenna said, pretty much here for support for her, and I'll be answering any questions. So as she's going through, if you have any questions, just put them in the chat and I'll try to get them answered for you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So one of the things that I like to do is that I've started doing this year is pairing badging with my workshops. So IBM has some really great free courses that you can earn badges from. It's completely free. I've earned a lot of them. They're really great to give you exposure and foundational skills to all different topics, from machine learning to, OpenShift to cloud native deployment and application architecture, things like that. So I have some that I've selected today, and these are really great, like I said, to get your feet wet, get your hands dirty, and you can always share your badges on your social or on your LinkedIn to help show potential employers that you have the skills required to dabble in these topics. So the first one I have here, there we go. I have a sticky mouse. The first one I have here is the IBM Cloud Essentials badge. So this will allow you to differentiate between services such as infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, and models, and differentiate between different deployment models as well, like public, hybrid, and private. Next one I have here for you is, there we go, is the IBM Cloud Application Development Essentials badge. I've done this one as well. This one was really nice. So this will allow you to develop cloud native applications using IBM Cloud offerings, like platform as a service, containers as a service, and in different programming languages like Java, Node.js, and frameworks like Spring, Netflix OSS, Console. So you'll be able to leverage some design thinking, IBM Cloud Innovate, and IBM Garage method practices, which is really cool, and techniques and accelerators and the overall cloud native development lifecycle. The next one I have here is the Applied Cloud Native Development Badge. So this will allow you to apply all of that knowledge that you've learned from the first two badges and really apply it to cloud native development. You'll be following the 12-factor application parameters and characteristics of a scalable and resilient cloud application, and you'll be able to deliver a cloud native application for delivering cloud native application engagements. So you'll be working, be able to use technologies like Java, Node, Python, container configuration, deployment, DevOps toolchain, things like that. So the next one I have for you here, come on, mouse. Let's go mouse, there we go. The next one I have here is the IBM Cloud Core badge. This is a newer badge I found. I'm assuming it's newer, I didn't see it before, but this will allow you to understand the basics of cloud technology, and you'll be able to describe in more detail different cloud platforms and models, such as the ones I mentioned before, SaaS, IaaS, and public, private, and hybrid multi-clouds. So you'll be familiar with terms like virtualization, VMs, containers, object storage, microservices, serverless, cloud native, and DevOps. The last badge I have here that I also didn't see this one before, which I'm kind of excited about, is the Docker Essentials badge. So you'll be able to learn and understand what Docker containers are and their benefits. You'll also learn how to run containers from Docker Hub, create Docker containers, and solve basic problems of orchestration. So those are my recommendations. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I'd like to do is just give an overview of Code Engine, what it can do for you, how it's really going to help you as a developer focus on your code, kind of the meat and potatoes of your application, and not have to worry about the deployment piece. Come on, mouse. All right, well, it doesn't want to, there we go. Got a sticky mouse today. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm also going to, so once we get started, you're going to have two options. I'm going to walk through the local dev environment setup if you want to work locally through terminal. If you would like to work in an IBM Cloud shell, you have the option to do that as well. It doesn't require the dev setup, the local dev setup, but you can do all of this, run all of the same commands that we're going to work through today. So the first thing we're going to look at is just do an overview of what exactly is Code Engine. So IBM Cloud Code Engine is a fully managed serverless platform. It allows you to run your containerized workloads, including web apps, microservices, event-driven functions, or batch jobs. And what's really cool is Code Engine even builds container images for you from their source to image feature, which is really cool, really nice. Okay, so what is Code Engine, right? I gave you kind of like a very, very high level. So Code Engine will host any containerized workload in the cloud in a matter of seconds. So as I mentioned, web apps, microservices, functions, batch jobs. So if you've been interested in serverless or getting your hands wet a little bit, working with serverless applications, Code Engine is, you know, really going to blow your mind because it's going to take care of a lot of pieces for you. So Code Engine will auto scale up and down even to 0 when idle. So when you don't have requests coming to your web application or microservice, it will auto scale all the way down to 0. So you won't be paying for, you know, an idle application. You won't have any charges for CPU and memory usage. What's really nice about Code Engine is that it hides all of the infrastructure pieces for you. So it manages, scales, secures clusters and networks all under the hood. So you don't have to do all of those pieces. All of those things are hidden for you, so you don't really have to worry about all of. You don't have to worry about that. This is what I mentioned before. So it will actually build your container images from your source code. This works for both public and private repositories and registries. So this is really, really nice. As I mentioned before, you know, we have a badge for Docker and learning how to create, images using Docker Hub. What's really nice is you don't have to do that. You know, it's really easy to build a container image with a simple command using the Code Engine CLI from your source code or your registries. Code Engine is integrated into IBM Cloud and all of IBM Cloud services. So if you are building a microservice and you want to integrate, you know, Watson AI machine learning model or a chatbot or any of those things, Code Engine is integrated into all of our offerings. So it makes it really, really seamless and really easy to use any of our other offerings with your application. So just kind of a high level. So Code Engine is built on open source Kubernetes, Knative, Istio, and Tekton. So it keeps your workloads really portable. And the best part is pay only for what you use, right? So if you're not getting requests coming in, Code Engine will automatically auto-scale down to 0, and you won't be paying for CPU and memory that you're not using. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up our dev environment. So if you haven't already, you will need to sign up for an IBM Cloud account. And this is the link to do that. It's also in the chat. If you scroll all the way to the top, I posted it again in there for you as well. Again, too, if you click to sign up, or I'm sorry, click the check-in button, that'll take you to your IBM Cloud sign up or login as well. So to use Code Engine, you will need an IBM Cloud pay-as-you-go account. There is a free light tier, a free tier with Code Engine. So that you won't be charged for anything that we're going to do today. And I'm going to walk you through cleaning everything up as well, so that we get everything deleted. But the free tier allows quite a bit of CPU and memory for you to use before you even get any charges. So feel free to play around with Code Engine as much as you want. Okay, so go ahead and log in or sign up. So as I mentioned before, we have two options here. So we can run everything in the IBM Cloud shell, or you can set up your local dev environment. So come on, mouse. If you would like to, let me just get this link for you. There we go. So if you would like to work in the IBM Cloud shell, I'm going to post a link for you to do that. Here we go. I'll post this in the chat. This is IBM Cloud shell. Cool. You do need to be logged in to your IBM Cloud account in order to use the Cloud shell. But feel free to run everything from there as well. Doesn't require any dev environment setup. So this is what it looks like. So if you want to use the Cloud shell, this is what it looks like. In order to start using the IBM Cloud CLI, as it's noted here, you'll need to run IBM Cloud. That will enable you to start using the CLI. And then everything should be updated, but the command for updating is there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through the local dev environment. So what we're going to do is, first thing you're going to need to do is install the IBM Cloud CLI. So if you want to follow along, go ahead and access the slides. I'll just drop them again for you. There we go. So I have all of the commands here that you're going to run for everything, including the install. So if you're running Mac or Linux, the curl command is here. If you're running Windows 10 Pro, this is the command that you'll run here. So this is going to install the IBM Cloud CLI for you. And then you're going to want to verify that the CLI is installed. Oops. And on the slides in the comments is all of the commands. So you can copy and paste the commands from the notes on the slides, just FYI. So for instance, in the notes on the slide, there's the command to run here. So once you verify that you have everything installed, you're going to log into your IBM Cloud via the CLI. So what I'm going to do, move over here. Come on. There we go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you all through this. So let me just pull up my terminal. Perfect. So once you have the IBM Cloud CLI installed, what you're going to do is log into IBM Cloud. So you're going to run IBM Cloud login. You're going to enter your email. You're going to enter your password.
Jenna, if you're sharing your screen, we can't see it. At least I can't.
Oh, sorry. Hold on. Let me go back. Oh, you know, I was sharing my, not the window. I was sharing my browser window. Okay. So how's that?
There we go. Much better. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to just run IBM Cloud login. It's going to ask for my email. Oops. Ask for my password. Perfect. Okay, so IBM Cloud Developer Tools CLI is installed. Just logged into my IBM Cloud account. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is, come on. Mouse is stuck over here. The next thing we're going to do is update our region. So as you can see, I already have this here. You might have been able to select a region. If you can select a region, go ahead and select the EUGB. If you accidentally selected Dallas or something, no worries. So what we're going to do is run IBM Cloud target -R for region EUGB. And that's going to update our region to the EUGB. Let me just pull this. There we go. Okay. So I want to make sure you can see the bottom here. So the next thing we need to do is select a resource group. So what I'm going to run is IBM Cloud resource groups. Should only have one, and it'll be default. So I'm going to run IBM Cloud target -G, and then the name of my resource group that's default. Perfect. So now we're logged in. Our region is EUGB, and our resource group is selected. So let me here. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is install the Code Engine plugin. So, and again, all the commands are in the notes on each of the slides. So we're going to run this IBM Cloud plugin install Code Engine. Plugin install. Oops, sorry. My bad, typo. Okay. Sure. I already have it. Let me just know. I already have it installed. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to test that it's installed, so we can just run IBM Cloud CE help. And we'll see a whole bunch of commands that we can run with the Code Engine CLI. Now, the next thing we're going to do is install the Cloud Object Storage plugin. So This is also required for what we're going to do today. So that's the IBM Cloud plugin install Cloud Object Storage. I already have this installed, so I'm not going to run it again. And then we can verify that the plugin's installed. Let's see. Just with IBM Cloud plugin list. This will show us everything that we have installed. So as you can see here, I have Cloud Object Storage, Code Engine, and we have Container Registry here too. So what we need right now is the Code Engine and the Cloud Object Storage, which we just installed. If you, I don't recommend doing this now, but if you have these things installed and you have haven't updated them in a while, I would recommend updating them. I wouldn't do it now. It takes a few minutes. But I have that included as well. So now that we have everything set up, we're going to go ahead and build something. So one of the things, let me just go here for a second. Here we go. One of the things I want to touch on briefly. We've done all of this. Oops. Set up a good environment. There we go. Okay. So the first thing I want to just touch on, we didn't really go into detail last time, but I want to just touch on it a little bit because this is what we're going to be working with today, and part of the we're going to be working with containers, and this is a really big part of Code Engine. Is
yeah, Jenna, are you sharing the screen again? It went blurry again.
Oh, hold on. Yeah, let's see. Share. Okay, perfect. Sorry. Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at is what is a container? So what do we mean when we're talking about containers and container images? So just a brief overview. So a container is just a standard unit of software. It packages up all of your code and all of the dependencies. So your application can actually run more quickly and reliably from one environment to another. So let's say someone's working on Mac, someone's working on Windows. It allows you to both be able to run quickly and reliably your application without having to worry about your computing environment. Again, you can do this in both, Linux and Windows-based applications. Containerized software will always run the same regardless of the infrastructure underneath, because containers isolate the software from the environment. It actually ensures that it's working uniformly despite any differences between development and staging. And we're talking about container images, right? So we're going to be deploying an application, for instance, using container image. We did that last week. So what does that actually mean, right? So this is kind of what it looks like, for instance. So a container image is a lightweight, standalone, executable package. So we're looking at this container layer here, right? So this is our container, or we have our container image. So what our container image is, it's a package of software that includes everything needed to run the application. So the code, the runtime, any systems tools, libraries, and settings. And what's good to keep in mind about this is a container image becomes a container at runtime. So for instance, if we're talking about Docker containers, images become containers when they run on Code Engine. So it's a very, very high level intro, but just to give you a high level idea of you know, what we're working with here, what we're going to be doing. So now we're going to just, now that we have our dev set up, we're going to start our tutorial. So let me share my, there we go. Perfect. Okay. So we're going to be working from the command line today. We did a lot from the Code Engine UI last week. We're going to be doing everything from the CLI today, using the Code Engine CLI from terminal. Also, like as I mentioned before, if you're working in Cloud Shell, that's totally fine. You'll be able to do that as well. So in this thumbnail tutorial, what we're going to be doing is we're going to use Code Engine to walk through a common pattern of how applications change over time from just a prototype to one that can be used in production, right? So we talked about staging and production a little bit. So we're going to walk through how that change happens and how we can change something, change a prototype to something we can actually use in production. So we're going to be using a very simple example. We're going to be creating an image transformation service that will process an image by examining it and creating a thumbnail version of it. So we're going to give it an image and it's going to give us a thumbnail, create a thumbnail. The code to do this transformation isn't the main point of this tutorial. What we're really going to be paying attention to is the maturing of the infrastructure around the application and how Code Engine makes that easier. So the overall growth path that we're going to see our application take is we're going to deploy a simple web application as a prototype to prove that our thumbnail processing logic works, right? That our application's working the way that we expect it to. Everything is self-contained in one web application. Then we're going to add some persistence so that as images are uploaded, we can save them so that we can offload the processing to background process. Since in many scenarios, the transformation logic can eat up a lot of time. This is also going to allow us to, for other mechanisms to upload the images in case where the data being processed could be coming from multiple sources. So the last thing we're going to look at is we're going to convert the offline processing into something more event-driven so that we can process images in real time immediately. So we have all of our dev setup done, which is good. If you're in Cloud Shell, you're ready to go already. So just to kind of talk about how this image transformation works, it takes an image as an array of bytes and then returns the thumbnail, again, as an array of bytes. So as we mentioned in the intro, the code here isn't really the point and can easily be replaced with other more complicated logic. But what we're interested in seeing here is the the growth of our application. So in the first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to deploy a web applet that wrappers the make thumbnail function. So it's going to wrap it with some HTTP processing, and this is going to allow users to upload an image through the browser to the web application. The web app is then going to call the make thumbnail function, which is going to generate the thumbnail and then return it back to the user. We're going to see the results of that in the browser. So the first thing we want to do is create a Code Engine project. So let me, okay. So again, we'll be removing everything at the end, so don't worry about anything being left over. We'll remove everything when we finish up. So the first thing we're going to do, like I said, is create a new Code Engine project. So I'm going to run IBM Cloud CE project create. I'm going to give it a name. No. Okay. And while that's going, by default, creating the project is also going to select that project that we're creating, so that any future IBM Cloud Code Engine commands will be scoped within the project we're just creating. If you're using an existing project, you would want to select it using IBM Cloud CE project select, but since we're all working together, we're going to create this new Code Engine project. So for this tutorial, we've already pre-built most of the container images for you. So we're going to go ahead and deploy our initial version of the web app by creating a Code Engine application. So just some things to keep in mind about the type of workloads that Code Engine supports. So Code Engine supports two types of workloads, applications and batch jobs. Just to kind of give you a brief overview of you know, what's the difference between an application and a batch job. So applications are workloads that usually respond to incoming requests, whether those requests are API calls, web page requests, events, or any other HTTP requests. Applications process the requests, and then Code Engine will scale your application based on the amount of incoming traffic to meet the demand. So it will scale your application, as we mentioned before. It will also auto-scale your application back down when there's a reduction in traffic. So if you're getting a lot of requests on a Tuesday and then things die down Wednesday morning, Code Engine is going to auto-scale the application back down automatically based on the amount of traffic. And as we mentioned before, even down to 0. So if there's no requests, it will auto scale back to 0, so that you're only paying when your application is actually running and nothing when it's scaled down to 0. So batch jobs are pretty different from applications because they don't typically respond to any incoming requests. So they're referred to as run to completion tasks. Batch jobs are meant to be created, they execute some operation, and then when they're done, they exit. So unlike applications, batch jobs will not automatically scale because they'll run to completion and then stop. So the number of instances are specified, which we'll see get a little further when the job is executed. So aside from not receiving traffic, which we use for auto scaling, batch jobs are similar to applications and all other aspects other than that. So for deploying an application to Code Engine, we only need 2 pieces of information. We need the name of our application and the container image that we want to use. So we're going to be using a pre-built container image today, and then all we have to do is name it, and Code Engine will deploy it and do all of the work on the back end for us. So we're going to run IBM Cloud CE app create, the name thumbnail, and then the image we're using is the IBM Com thumbnail from the container registry that we'll take a look at a little later too. So if we look at the output, the end of the output is going to be a URL. So this is actually going to be where our application is running. There we go. So if we take a look at this. Let's see. Let me share this differently. Let me just share my whole screen. Maybe that might be easier. Okay. So again, all I used was the a name and the container image that I wanted to use, and it deployed my application. So this is the live application. You can choose an image. Let's see, this one from earlier. Generate the thumbnail. There we go. So now we've seen our application is functioning the way that we anticipate. So we wanted to keep note of our URL here as well. So let's go here. And what we're going to want to do is save this environment. Save the URL as an environment variable so that we're able to use it later. So we're going to do that by using export URL, and then I'm going to copy the URL for my thumbnail. Add it here, and just push enter. Perfect. So this is a pretty simple application. We can drag and drop the images. As you can see, I pulled one out of just out of my downloads. We click generate thumbnail, it's processing the image, and then as we can see, it's giving us the resulting thumbnail on the right-hand side. So what we just did was with two pieces of information, the application name and the container image, we deployed an internet-facing application that is secure. So if you notice the, let's see here. If you notice the URL in the browser, you can notice it here too. It's HTTPS. We've deployed a secure application. So Code Engine made sure that our application was secure. And again, it will scale up and down based on how much is used. So the next thing we're going to do is set up our persistence. So now that we've tested out, we see that the logic of our thumbnail processor works. What we want to do is change things a bit so that instead of assuming incoming images are coming from a web page, we're going to get them from a persistent store. So in this case, we're going to use IBM Cloud Object Storage. The reason we're doing this is because our production environment, data that we're going to process might be coming from a bunch of different sources. And we want to keep both the original and processed data for our records. So this will allow us to save both the image and its thumbnail. So the other change in our processing logic that this is going to make is moving the thumbnail processing away and outside of our web application. Since it's it might not be the only way images are put into our database, into a separate workload, and then we'll invoke that workload outside of our application. but we'll look at that in a second. So what we're going to start with first is we're going to, since we've already downloaded our Cloud Object Storage plugin, we're going to create a new instance of our Cloud Object Storage data store. Go ahead and do that. And so
did you delete the old one that you had?
I did.
From our previous run?
Yeah, I did. I have a backup. I have a backup account I can use. Yeah, interesting. So let me just grab that real quick. Sorry about that. I don't know why. Okay. So let's see. Here we go. All right, let's try this. Sorry about this. Let me just figure it out. Okay. Right, and then put in the project. Oh man. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Just 1 second.
You sure wouldn't it be easier to go back to your personal account and just verify that you actually deleted the cause instance? Sometimes the cause instance doesn't go away properly.
Yeah, let me check that. Let's see.
And we could stare at Carlos for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know if Carlos would be happy or sad about his picture being used, but yeah. And yes, that really is Carlos's full name, Carlos Santana.
Yes, Carlos Santana. Okay, so okay. So should I just delete this Cloud Object Storage instance?
Yes, but first go into it and make sure you delete all the objects in your bucket first and then delete the bucket. If you don't delete the bucket cleanly, it may stick around for a while and screw up your demo because you're probably going to try to reuse the same name.
Yeah, let me delete this.
But you got to make sure you delete all the objects inside first.
Yeah. Okay. So if anyone has any questions while I'm fixing this, go ahead and post those in the chat, and we can answer those while we've got a second here. Okay, and then delete. Yeah, that must be what happened, that I didn't, I still had something, so it didn't delete the whole thing. All right, so let's delete. Okay. Should be good. Okay, so I should just delete my Cloud Object Storage instance.
Well, yeah, once you delete the objects, then the bucket, then you should be able to delete the instance.
Okay. Perfect, there we go. Okay, let's try this again. All right. Oh, you know what? I want to log into my backend.
Yeah, I was going to say you need to switch accounts and just go back to the cost create.
There we go. Right. Oh. Okay. Scan. There we go. So now we want to, now we'll create our thumbnail project. Okay, so we'll just call it
You should just be able to pick up from where you left off, right? And create the cross stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah, let me do that.
Make sure you go back and select the previous one.
Select thumbnail. Oh, Code Engine.
You forgot the word project. CE project select.
There we go. Now.
Oh, forgot dash n. I hate that dash n, but yeah, you gotta do dash n, then the name. Drives me
There we go.
nuts.
Okay. Cool. Okay, so let's try this again. All right, okay. So now we're going to create the Cloud Object Storage instance. There we go.
There you go, cool.
Perfect. And then we're going to save our ID value. So if you see this long ID, there we go. Cursor's so tiny. Okay, we're going to copy our ID and we're going to save it. So I'm going to type export clause ID equal, then I paste my ID there. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is, okay, so what we're doing here is our images are going to be stored in buckets. Think of it as like folders on your computer. So to manage these, we're using our Cloud Object Storage, and we'll need to configure it. So we'll need to point to our cause instance that we just created, Cloud Object Storage, and we're going to tell it which authentication mechanism we want to use when talking to it, since it supports multiple types. So the first thing we're going to do, there we go, is we're going to direct all the Cloud Object Storage CLI uses to our cause instance. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to use the IAM authentication method, which uses the same API key that the rest of our CLI commands use. So let me go here. So we're going to run the IBM cause config auth method. IAM. Okay. The final setup for our Cloud Object Storage is that we need to give our Code Engine project permission to access our Cloud Object Storage instance. So by default, and for security reasons, access to your cause buckets is restricted and it cannot be accessed by any other cloud components without your explicit permission. So we need to authorize access to our cause bucket from our Code Engine project. So first we need the service instance ID, which we can get from running IBM Cloud CE project list, which will show all of our projects. Okay, so I'm using this thumbnail project. So let me just copy this ID. So what we want here is the Code Engine project ID. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to export Code Engine ID, so CEID, and we're going to set that variable to our project ID. So now that we've saved the ID value for our project as our environment variable CEID, the next step is we want to set up our authorization policy using both our CEID we just obtained and the Cloud Object Storage ID from the previous command. So I'll run that here. Perfect. And then what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to save the ID of this authorization instance so that we can delete it easily later. So we're going to take the policy ID here. Where is mine? Oh, there we go. So where is my cursor? Okay. So here's the ID, and then we're going to type IBM Cloud cause. I'm sorry. We want to save the ID. So we're going to export our as a variable policy ID, and we're going to set it equal to the ID we just created here. Okay. Now the next thing we want to do is get back to setting our Cloud Object Storage up for our application. So we're going to go ahead and create a new bucket where our data is going to be stored. So in order to do this, we need to provide a unique name for our bucket. It needs to be globally unique across all of our buckets within IBM Cloud, which is a lot of buckets. So in the command, we're going to run the command to use the source service instance value from our previous command's output. Just so happens to also be the ID of our Code Engine project appended with thumbnail. So what we're going to do is export bucket, and then we're going to set it equal to our CE project. Oops, there we go. Okay, so our project ID here. And then we're going to add thumbnail. Perfect. Now what we're going to do is we're going to ask our Cloud Object Storage to create our bucket. So run IBM Cloud cause bucket create, and then bucket and our variable bucket here. So our Cloud Object Storage is now creating our bucket. So now what we've done in this step is set up our persistent data store with a Cloud Object Storage instance, and we added authorization so that Code Engine could access our Cloud Object Storage instance. So the next thing we're going to do is deploy V2 of our application. So we all saw V1 with Carlos hanging out on there. So now that we have our data store ready, what we want to do is deploy a second version of our application. So this looks very similar to the first, but instead of calling the make thumbnail function immediately, it's going to put the uploaded image into our bucket. Then what we're going to do is invoke the make thumbnail function at a later point in time. So just like with the first version of our application, the container image is already built, so we just need to tell Code Engine when we want to use it. So there is one other change that we want to make while we're doing this as well. So the version of the application will need to be told which bucket to use, right? We just created this, this new cost bucket. So we need to indicate which bucket we want to use for storing our images. So it will look for an environment variable called bucket that, as you can see, we just created here to get the bucket name. We could have just hard-coded the bucket name, but being able to modify the name dynamically without changing the source code is a much better practice. So before the application can access the bucket, it needs a little more information about how we want it to talk to our Cloud Object Storage. So for example, it's going to need the credentials to authenticate our cause instance. So Code Engine is helping here by setting up the credentials and auto-injecting them into our application as environment variables. So I have a note here too. So what we want to do is look for the, if you look at the main function, and the link is in the slides, in our v2 app.go, the first thing it does is get our values to use later. So if we look for the os.getEnv cloud object storage API key, and the .getEnv cloud object storage resource instance ID calls, these are getting the API key used to access our cloud object storage and the cloud object storage instance ID for the bucket that we just created. So in Code Engine, what we're using this bind operation to connect our workloads up to service instances. So all we need is the, again, application name, and this time the service instance name that we used in the resource service instance create command that we did in the previous section. And then what Code Engine does is it injects these variables for us. So what we're going to do is we're going to run IBM Cloud CE app bind, the thumbnail name, and the service instance thumbnail cause that we created. So notice that it has to deploy a new version or revision. This is going to happen each time any change is made to an application. So if the application is in the middle of receiving requests, then it's not going to send new requests to the new version until it successfully comes up and is ready. Only then is Code Engine going to migrate all the traffic from the old revision to the new revision. So this means that users of your application aren't going to experience any downtime during the switchover. So you know, you may have experienced some downtime or lag when you know, UI gets updated. You know, when Facebook you know, updates their UI for their application, for instance. So eventually the old revision of your code is going to be scaled down to 0. Now, one feature that is in beta that we'll be able to explore in a future session is managing traffic, application traffic. So one of the things we'll be able to do is indicate, you know, maybe you're doing A/B testing on some new UI features, or you know, something with your application, some new updates. You want to see, you know, you're doing A/B testing to see, you know, which changes your clients or your users prefer. In the near future, what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to indicate what percentage of your traffic you want to go to which version. So you'll be able to send, you know, 30% to V2 of your application and 70% to V1 of your application, and it will automatically send that percentage of traffic to each version of your application. So that's just a note. That's something that we'll be able to explore in the near future. That'll be really fun. So even though we haven't changed our application code yet, having the cause and bucket environment variables already set doesn't hurt. But what we're going to do is go ahead and upgrade to the latest V2 version of our code now. And we're going to pass in the bucket name as an environment variable. So we're going to run here. IBM Cloud CE app update with thumbnail. We have our new version of our container image of our application and our bucket. Okay. So once the application has been updated, will notice that the web page looks a little different, and there's a few things to take note of. There we go. So let me open this up for you all so you can take a look and see what this looks like. There we go. The cursor is so tiny, it's hard to see. Okay. Yeah. Oh. Here we go. Sorry, Carlos. Okay. Let me zoom out a little for you. Perfect. Okay. Okay. So a few things to take note. Dragging or uploading an image into the leftmost box here does not upload it automatically to the server, our object storage. You're given an opportunity to view it first. So once you're okay with the image, then you can press the upload button to upload it to the cloud object storage. So I'm going to just select Carlos again. Okay.
You know, I'm really hurt that you're not choosing the dogs. That's the whole point of the demo.
Oh. Wow.
I mean, nothing against Carlos, but you know, some of us like dogs, but that's okay. I understand.
Let's
I'm just giving you a hard time.
Well, you know, let's see this.
And no, Matt, I refuse to put cats into the demo.
There we go.
There you go. There you go. Much better.
There we go. This is what we're supposed to be doing all along, right? Okay.
That's right. Cute little puppies.
So as you can see here, I was able to just drag and drop the image from the left into the box. We're able to take a look at it and make sure we're okay with the image first. Then when we press the upload image button, it's going to upload it to the object storage. You can see the resulting image in the images thumbnails over here on the right. However, the corresponding thumbnail image should also always show this NA until you ask for the thumbnail to be generated. So you can upload as many images as you want before you generate thumbnails for them. We'll generate the thumbnails with the thumbnails job runner button, but that hasn't been enabled yet. We'll do that next. And then finally, you'll notice a clear bucket button, which can be used to erase the contents of our object storage bucket. Sorry, my brain. There we go. There we go. We got one puppy. Take this guy. He looks nice. Okay. So I've got these ready on deck, and we will get back to this in just a second. So let's come back here. So technically you can use the application right now, but if you upload an image, you're not going to see the thumbnail because the logic has been moved, as we mentioned before, out of the web application. The processing of the images is now going to be done in a batch job. We talked about this a little bit ago. So batch jobs are pieces of code that will run once and then exit when they're done, unlike applications that wait for additional work to come in via HTTP requests. So in this case, we've moved the make thumbnail function logic out of the web application and into a separate container image, which if you're interested, you can also see by looking at the v2job.go. Let me just which is in the code here, which is in the repository that I shared with you. So you can actually look at the code in here. Let me just, okay. So the processing of the images is now going to be done in batch jobs. So what we want to do is create our batch job. So the arguments to create, there we go, for the job create command are thumbnail job, which is the name we're assigning to our job, IBM Com thumbnail job, which is the name of the pre-built container image, and then the bucket. Remember the environment variable that we set that the code will look for to get the name of the bucket in which the images are stored. The same as with the application. So we're going to go ahead and run CE job create, give it our name thumbnail and our image, our bucket. It's important to note that the previous command just defines the job. It doesn't actually execute it. So by creating the definition of the job in advance, we can easily run it whenever we need to via a job submit command without having to enter all the parameters each time, which is really nice. So in our case of the web app will be submitting the job for us each time the user presses the thumbnail job runner button on the web page. So as with the application, the job will need credentials to talk to our cloud object storage. So we'll need to issue another bind command to ask Code Engine to auto-inject those credentials for us. Okay, so we'll run our IBM Cloud CE job bind with our name and our service instance, our thumbnail pause. So now if we go back to the web page, we'll be able to generate thumbnails for the images by pressing the thumbnail job runner button. It'll take a second or two for the job to be started and do its work, but you'll eventually see the thumbnails appear on the web page. So let's take a look. There we go. Everything's so tiny. Okay, so now we can click this thumbnails job runner. Yeah, I uploaded it a few times. That's good. Well, let's try a new dog. We'll do this guy, and we'll do upload this image. Upload this guy. Looks like he's having a rough day. Okay, and as you can see here, it generated our thumbnails for these. These ones I just added, so I'm going to click the thumbnails job runner. It's going to run that batch job. It's going to create those thumbnails. Just a second.
It's amazing how much video conferencing slows down networks.
Yes. Refresh my. There we go. There we go.
Slow but steady.
Slow and steady. Yes. Perfect. Okay. So. Okay. So now what we're going to take a look at is event-driven image processing. So in the last part of the tutorial, what we're going to do is make the final migration to our application. So up until now, the application is, at the point we're at now, the application is a lot more robust than it was when we first started. It can save the images as thumbnails. It can support processing images regardless of how they're put into our data store. It can process the entire bucket of them at will via our batch job. However, the batch job process is a bit too manual for our needs. So what we're going to do is hook it up to a timer-based invocation mechanism. And that's appropriate for some systems. But for our needs, we want it to be a bit more reactive or event-driven. So in normal English speak, our requirements are that we'd like to have each image processed individually as it's uploaded into our cloud object storage. So in order to achieve this, we're going to have cloud object storage send us an event each time there's a new image uploaded into the bucket, and then we'll process the image right away. So in order to do this, we're gonna have to deploy a second application to receive those events. We could have reused the web app application for this, but in order to have a clear separation of concerns, we're gonna just create a new one. And then each can scale independently as needed. So rather than using a pre-built container image, this time we're gonna leverage Code Engine's build feature and build it ourselves. So in order to do this, there's a little bit of setup we need to do. So first we'll need to create a place to store our newly created container image. So we're gonna use IBM Container Registry. I have a few slides about Container Registry since I had a little hiccup in the beginning. You can check those out in the slides. We'll just keep moving. Essentially, Container Registry is IBM's registry for container images. Both private and public registries are available. So what we're going to do is we're first going to create a namespace, which is similar to a folder on your desktop to place our image. So namespaces in IBM's Container Registry must be unique across all the users in a region. So we need to make sure that we use a unique name. So we're going to prefix a human readable name with the ID for our Code Engine project. So to use that, we can reuse the first 8 characters of our CEID environment variable we already created, and then create a new environment variable called ICRNS. So let's just show you how to do this. Okay. So what we're going to want to do is let's roll up to our CEID. Fantastic. Oh, it's over here.
Which step are you on? Sorry, I got distracted. I was talking with Mark.
Oh, here it is. I couldn't find my my CEID here.
Okay, you don't have to use that if you don't want to, just as long as it's unique.
Yeah. Okay. So add this here. All right. Okay. Oh, oops. Okay. So then what we're going to do is create our new IBM Container Registry. So here we go. All right, so this is going to add a new container registry namespace for us using our Code Engine project ID. So you can see here, these were the first 8 of my Code Engine project ID. So if you're running this tutorial outside the US, then the location of the IBM Container Registry server is not going to be the us.icr.io, as you can see here. So as you can see here, since we have this EU GB region, as you can see here, so ours is uk.icr.io. So in order to keep things, more uniform, we're going to set the ICR, the IBM Container Registry environment variable to the location of our Container Registry server and use that whenever we reference the images we're going to build in the rest of the tutorial. So we can export ICR and we can set that to us.icr.io. Next, we need to create a such set of credentials that our build processes are going to use to talk to the registry. So we'll give those credentials a name, thumbnail ICR API key, as you can see here, so that we can delete it later when we're all done. Okay. Okay, cool. Make sure to take note of your API key. If you might need it later, because you won't be able to retrieve it. So the final step we need to do is to tell Code Engine how to talk to the registry for us using our API key that we just created. So to do this, we'll need to copy the API key value. Here we go. From the previous output into the command in place of our API key. So if you copy and paste the command here, what we're going to do, oh, that was not right. Oops. Okay. So, I don't know what I want to do. So we're going to run the following command, CE registry create. We're going to replace this API key with our API key here. Okay. Come on, mouse. There we go. So our API key is here. So we have ID, name, description, API key. I'm going to put it here. Okay. And then push enter. Oh. Oops. For some reason it had this twice. Again. Let's try this again. Copied wrong. Okay, so let me take this API key. And then I'm going to replace this. There we go. Okay, there we go. So now we can actually define the build process of our new container image for the new application. So the parameters to this command are the name of the definition build, the name of the container image we're going to build, the location of the Git repo where our source code can be found, the registry access secret that we just created, and the location of the Git repo where our code resides. So it's at the root of the repo. If your code resides at the root of your repository, then the parameter context context-dir, so the context directory wouldn't be necessary. For instance, if it's just in the code resides just in the, the main branch of your repo. Okay, so we're going to define our build process here and run that. And similar to the bash job we created, this command is defining how to do the build. It didn't actually invoke it, so it just defined it. So this allows us to run it over and over without needing to specify all the parameters each time. So what we're going to do is actually invoke it using the build run submit command, and we're going to pass in the name of the build we just created. We'll also use the wait flag so that we can see the build output as it happens, and then we'll know when it's done. So there we go. It's here. Okay. So now we'll finally be able to deploy our new application and receive the events. So interesting. Let's see.
Try to run the build run get command instead of get, do logs, and you can see what the error message is. Chances are that the API key is bad.
This one with logs?
Yeah, just run that command except replace get with logs, and we'll see what the error message is.
Okay.
Yeah, usually when things fail, it's because they can't push the registry, and it's usually the API key issue. Let's see. Yeah, look at the bottom, it says unauthorized. So it's a good possibility that the secret wasn't set up quite right. Let's go back to your create of the registry secret thing. Registry create password. ICR. Do me a favor, do a get on your build itself, on the eventer build. Let's see whether your image name is set up properly.
This one?
Yeah, actually, I'm sorry. Actually, go down. Let's just see. No, actually, it looked like, yeah. See, look, it says us.icr.io. I think that's supposed to be Great Britain, right? EUGB.
Oh.
So I think so. Check your ICR environment very well. I think that might be pointing to the wrong spot.
Okay. So. Let's do.
Yeah, see, there you go.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and do, well, yeah, you can change that to, I don't think it's UK. I think it's EUDE, isn't it? I can't remember. Hold on. Oh,
UK.
EU-DE. I'm sorry, not DE, GB. But we can also double check.
EU-GB. Like this?
Yeah, try that. And then let's go back and do, let's go back to your build create command and just swap out the word create with update.
Update. Right here?
Yeah. Let's see if that works.
Okay.
All right, cool. Give it a now try doing your build submit again, see what happens. Fingers crossed. No, okay, let's check your logs again. Let me double check and see if it's IBM CR. Let me double check and see if it really is EUGB. Oh no, okay, I'm sorry, you're right. It is just UK.
Okay.
Sorry, I
No
never paid
worries.
attention to it. But
Okay.
you can run your update command again. There you go.
We all learned something.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Okay.
Now do your submit.
Okay.
At least the build is fairly fast when it fails. Oh my gosh, did it again. Okay, let's check the log on that puppy.
Okay. So here we go.
No, you can't rerun the same one because it's a different it's a different build run. You got to grab the new name.
Okay. Just 1 second. There you go. Yep, just go.
You know, replace the get with the logs and see. Or just copy the command. It shows you on the screen at the bottom there. That'll do it too.
Okay.
That's not right. Over logs.
Oh, wait, hold on, sorry.
Oh, you're still in the quote thing. Hit Control C.
Okay, there we go.
There you go. Yeah.
There we go. Okay. Sorry, just 1 second.
Yeah, your credentials aren't right. I don't get that.
Just one quick second. Someone is banging on my door. Okay, sorry about that. It's yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, hold on a
Your
minute.
IBM Cloud account is not active.
Your cloud. That's usually means it's just an authentication issue.
Yeah.
Scope repository, ampersand. Okay, hold on a sec. Let me check something here.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember if we created I'm pretty sure we had a pre-canned image up there that we could use if we need to. Hold on.
Yeah.
Just can't remember the name. Okay, so why don't you skip the build and go to the next step, and then I'll give you the name of the Docker image you can use that's already pre-built for you.
Okay.
I think that's the right one. Hopefully I've updated it recently to the right version.
Okay, so skipping the app create.
Yeah, do the app create and we'll change the image name. Hopefully that will work for you.
Cool. So so this image.
Yeah, just get here, let me paste it in the chat.
Okay.
That's or actually let me do it in our private Slack channel too, it might be easier there. So there's the image name you want to use. Try that instead. And get rid of the registry secret since you don't need it and you're not pulling from ICR anymore.
Okay, so I'm going to do this. Get rid of registry. I need the ICR.
No, get rid of the whole flag.
Okay. This, okay, so like this.
IBM Inventor, IBM Com thumbnail Inventor. You need the CL of the flag at the end to make it a cluster local thing. So just do --CL.
--.
Yeah, --CL should make it cluster local, so you don't expose the
This
URL
one?
for it.
Okay.
I believe so. Wait, where's the L? Need CL. There you go. I think that should do it.
Okay. Okay.
Fingers crossed. Let's see if it worked. Hopefully that's the right version of the app, and again, it's not a really old version from a previous demo, our previous incantation.
Okay, so
oh, don't forget to bind it. Yeah, you got to do the next step, the bind.
okay, so what I'm going to do here is, okay, so just like our batch job, the Inventor application needs credentials to talk to our cloud object storage. So we're going to bind it to our cause instance. So I'm going to take our Inventor. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this should work. Okay. Okay. I think we're back. Okay. Okay, so the last thing we're going to need to do is tell our Cloud Object Storage to send an event to our Inventor application each time a new image is uploaded into our bucket. So to do this, we'll create a subscription. So subscription is just a request to receive events from any particular event producer, Cloud Object Storage being in this case. So we're going to create our subscription. So let me run the Code Engine subcause create. Okay, and while everything is hooked up right now, once we go back and look at our application, we'll notice that the thumbnail job runner button is still available, even though it shouldn't. We don't need it anymore. However, instead of completely removing it from the code, we allowed it for it to be conditionally visible with another environment variable called hide button. So if it's set to any non-empty string, then the button should vanish from the web page. So we're going to update our application one last time to see it disappear. So we take a look at our application here. Here's our button. Okay, so we're going to update our application to the latest revision. And once that's completed, we should see our, okay. As you can see, our button has now been hidden. But we still have all of our little thumbnails that we created. we have in our persistent storage. So that's pretty much it. So we have a few more final steps, but as far as a web application goes, we can upload an image. There you go. And we should see the thumbnail automatically created without the need to press our job runner button.
Don't forget to hit the upload image button. You got to do that.
There we go. So there's our picture. And then our thumbnail is going to be generated automatically.
Hopefully, if the Eventer app is, there you go. Yay.
Yay. So the very last part of the tutorial doesn't involve learning anything new about Code Engine. First, what we want to demonstrate is how the event-driven thumbnail processor works without even uploading any images to the web app. So what we're going to do is we're going to download an image to our local system by using one of the predefined images from our web application. So I'm going to go to terminal. Okay. Command to download this image. Then we're going to use our Cloud Object Storage CLI to upload the image into our bucket. You'll want to, we're going to want to keep an eye on our web app since it, along with the thumbnail, should automatically appear on there as the web app refreshes. So let me get this command here. Okay. So key is the name of the object in the Cloud Object Storage, and random will ensure that each time the command is called, a unique key name is used. So here's the command here I want to run. Okay. Oh. I think I did something.
I think it might. Yeah, I think there's the extra stuff on the line did it. There you go.
There we go. So let's go back to our web application. Okay, as you can see here, it already is trying to.
Double check and make sure your dog files actually has something in there. So usually when the image doesn't load properly, it's because dog is actually empty.
Oh.
Yeah, I've just do an ls-l. Let's see what dog, how big dog is. Where's dog?
Interesting.
Oh, there it is. Wait, go back up.
Oh, wait.
I saw it go flying by.
Oh, there it is, right there. Oh.
Yeah, see, it's 0. That's why the curl didn't work properly for some reason.
All right, let's run it again. There we go.
Do me a favor. We'll do an ls-l on dog again and see if it worked this time. No, it's still 0. So yeah, something's not doing. So the curl isn't working right for some reason. Try doing it without the -s so that maybe you don't hide the error message.
This one?
No, it does make it -f. Again, remove the s on the -fs on the flags.
Okay.
Yeah, let's see if they get an error message now. Doing echo $URL. Maybe URL isn't set up right. There you go. So go copy the URL from the browser and export URL to be that value. And that should fix the issue, I think.
Oh, because I used the different, okay. So export URL. Now let's try.
Yeah, that should make it a little happier, hopefully.
Okay, there we go.
Oh yeah, looks much better. Hopefully that.
Okay, let's try this again.
Okay, now let's go back to your browser. Or not. Maybe the image itself still isn't right. That's really weird.
Hmm.
Yeah, clearly there's something wrong with the image because not even the non-thumbnail version isn't showing up right. So the image itself is funky.
Yeah.
But you can see technically it did get uploaded. So the thumbnail or the eventer thing would have worked if there was something, if we had a proper image. I'm not sure why it was not the right image.
Yeah, so we have our, what would be our potential, what would be our image and our thumbnail uploaded to our local system using our cost CLI to upload the image into our cost bucket that we created. Of course, we can still upload images from the web app. But either way, the main takeaway here is that the eventer application is going to receive the event from the Cloud Object Storage and process the image. We can then use the clear bucket button on the web app to erase all the contents of the bucket. So we can still add photos here, which will automatically upload like we saw a second ago. So I'll upload the image and it's going to kick off that make thumbnail function and create that function, I'm sorry, that thumbnail for us. And then we'll be able to, we can clear our bucket as well. So there's our image and then our thumbnail. Okay, there we go. And then of course we can clear our bucket, get rid of all of our images and thumbnails in our Cloud Object Storage. So what we're going to want to do now is just clean everything up and get rid of everything. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by deleting all of the Code Engine resources that we created.
Actually, Jenna, given the time, maybe it's probably not worth showing the cleanup stuff. It's not that exciting.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so in the slides as well as the repository is all the steps for cleanup. So you can run the commands there as is, and it will delete all of your Cloud Registry namespace API key, your Cloud Object Storage instance, your bucket, and your Cloud Engine project as well. So just to recap what we did here, so we created an internet-facing application with just a reference to a container image and a name. While we didn't demonstrate it, if the load on one application increased, Code Engine would have scaled it up and down automatically. As we mentioned before, including down to 0 if it was idle. We created an instance of Cloud Object Storage and a bucket to store the images. We updated the application to a second version with no downtime, and we made it so the application stored the images and thumbnails in the bucket. We also created a batch job to process all of the images in the bucket on command using our make thumbnail function. And we created a second application to react to events from Cloud Object Storage so that we can process the images immediately as they're uploaded to our Cloud Object Storage instead of waiting for the batch job to kick in. And then we created a build that built the second application from our Git repository for us. Let me skip over here. Skip over here. Oh, yeah. So again, I have click-by-click slides for all of you. So congratulations to all of you for making it through to the end of our workshop here. As I mentioned before, feel free to go back to reference the slides to delete and clean up everything that you've created today so you can get rid of all of it. There is a survey, so let me share the survey link with you. It is very quick. It is literally 2 questions, so feel free to fill out the survey. I go through all of the feedback you all send. Feel free to share anything you're interested in, things you want to see, things you would like to see more in depth. Let me share that for all of you here. There you go. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Doug or myself. We can take a few minutes to answer any questions here as we're wrapping things up. If you want to post them in the chat. So as I mentioned before, the first part of the Code Engine 101 session, you can view the recording, the live stream recording for, and access all of the resources associated with that as well, if you'd like to follow along and do those at home too. And again, we have the event resources and the cloud certifications that I mentioned as well. And then all of our IBM Developer Social, so you can follow us on any platform that you like to use. We have a presence. You can find us there. And feel free to connect with myself. As I mentioned too, reach out to me, reach out to Doug with any questions. Let me go back and check here for any questions. So someone asked, did you mention an issue about scalability? So I don't know, Doug, if maybe you want to maybe just highlight what we kind of talked about when we talked about scalability with Code Engine.
So Beverly, I'm not quite sure what you mean by an issue about scalability. So Code Engine will scale your application by default based upon the requests coming in. So the more requests you get, the more it will scale. By default, it assumes that each instance of your application can handle about 100 requests at a time. And then once you reach that 100, then it spins up a second instance. As the requests go away, obviously it will scale back down. But I'm not quite sure what you meant by did I mention an issue with scalability? I'm not quite sure what you mean by issue. Maybe you could elaborate in the chat. Or reach out offline. We'll try to answer your question. I'm not quite sure what you're asking though, unfortunately.
I don't see any other questions right now, but Doug, is there anything that you want to touch on or end with?
No, I think you covered all the main points. Just reach out if you have any questions. I'm more than happy to talk.
All right, well, thank you all so much for coming. We are going to be running these sessions again. So if you couldn't make it, or you want to join us live next time, we will be running these again and showing some more features as they come into beta. So thank you all so much for coming. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself, reach out to Doug. We'll be happy to help you all get started developing with Code Engine. So thank you all so much for coming, and we will see you next time.